Today we'll discuss about unilateral leg swelling. Most leg swelling is caused by edema, the accumulation of fluid within the interstitial space. There are three explanatory mechanisms for development of edema. Unilateral swelling usually indicates a localized pathology in either the venous or the lymphatic system, while bilateral edema often represents generalized fluid overload combined with the effects of gravity. However, all causes of unilateral leg swelling may present bilaterally, and generalized fluid overload may present with asymmetrical and therefore apparently unilateral edema. Fluid overload may be the result of cardiac failure, pulmonary hypertension, even in the absence of right ventricular failure, renal failure, hypoalbuminemia, or drugs, calcium channel blockers, glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, NSAIDs, and others. The remainder of this section focuses on the causes of unilateral edema. Now the presentation. Any patient who present with unilateral leg swelling should be assessed with possibility of deep vein thrombosis, that is DVT, in mind. The pain and swelling of a DVT is often fairly gradual in onset, over hours or even days. Sudden onset pain in the posterior aspect of the leg is more consistent with gastrocnemius muscle tear, which may be traumatic or spontaneous, or a ruptured Becker cyst. Leg swelling and pain associated with paresthesia and paresis, or in the context of lower limb injury or reduced conscious level, should always prompt concern regarding the possibility of compartment syndrome. Now, the clinical assessment. Lower limb DVT characteristically starts in the distal veins, causing an increase in temperature of the limb and dilatation of the superficial veins. Often, however, symptoms and signs are minimal. Now, the mechanisms of edema. There are three explanatory mechanisms for the development of edema that may occur in isolation or combination. Increased hydrostatic pressure in the venous system due to increased intravascular volume or venous obstruction. Decreased oncotic pressure secondary to a decrease in the plasma proteins that retain fluid within the circulation. Obstruction to lymphatic drainage, that is lymphedema. Now, identification of compartment syndrome. Compartment syndrome classically occurs following extrinsic compression of a limb due to trauma or reduced conscious level, especially when caused by drugs or alcohol. It usually presents with a tense, firm, and exquisitely painful limb. The pain is characteristically exacerbated by passive muscle stretching or squeezing the compartment. Altered sensation may be evident distally. Absent peripheral pulses are a late sign, and their presence does not exclude the diagnosis. Clinical suspicion of compartment syndrome should prompt measurement of creatine kinase and urgent surgical review. Now, cellulitis is usually characterized by erythema and skin warmth localized to a well-demarcated area of the leg and may be associated with an obvious source of entry of infection, example leg ulcer or insect bite. The patient may be febrile and systematically unwell. Superficial thrombophlebitis is more localized. Erythema and tenderness occur along the course of a firm, palpable vein. Examination of any patient presenting with leg swelling should include assessment for malignancy, evidence of weight loss, a palpable mass, or lymphadenopathy. Malignancy is a risk factor for DVT, but pelvic or lower abdominal masses can also produce leg swelling by compressing the pelvic veins or lymphatics. Early lymphedema is indistinguishable from other causes of edema. More chronic lymphedema is firm and non-pitting, often with thickening of the overlying skin, which may develop a cobblestone appearance. Chronic venous insufficiency is a cause of long-standing edema that, particularly when combined with another cause of leg swelling, may acutely worsen. Characteristic skin changes, hemosiderin deposition, hair loss, varicose eczema, ulceration, and prominent varicosities are common and sometimes cause diagnostic confusion with cellulitis. Now, the initial investigations. Clinical criteria can be used to rank patients according to their likelihood of DVT by using scoring systems such as the Wells score. Figure 10.6 gives an algorithm for investigation of suspected DVT based on initial Wells score. In patients with a low, unlikely pretest probability of DVT, D-dimer levels can be measured. If these are normal, further investigation for DVT is unnecessary. In those with a moderate or high likely probability of DVT or with elevated D-dimer levels, objective diagnosis of DVT should be obtained using appropriate imaging, usually a Doppler ultrasound scan. The investigative pathway for DVT therefore differs according to the pretest probability of DVT. For low probability DVT, the negative predictive value of the D-dimer test. The most important parameter in this context is over 99%. If the test is negative, the clinician can discharge the patient with confidence. In patients with a high probability of DVT, the negative predictive value of a D-dimer test falls to somewhere in the region of 97 to 98%. While this may initially appear to be a high figure, to discharge 2 or 3% patients in every 100 incorrectly would generally be considered an unacceptable error rate. Hence, with the exception of pregnancy, a combination of clinical probability and blood test results should be used in the diagnosis of venous thromboembolism. If cellulitis is suspected, serum inflammatory markers, skin swabs, and blood culture should be sent, ideally before antibiotics are given. Ruptured Becker cyst and cuff muscle tear can both be readily diagnosed on ultrasound. If pelvic or lower abdominal malignancy is suspected, a prostate-specific antigen (PSA) level should be measured in males, and appropriate imaging with ultrasound, transabdominal or transvaginal or CT should be undertaken. This is the investigation of suspected deep vein thrombosis. Pretest probability. If pretest probability is low, then we'll do D-dimer. If D-dimer is negative, then exclude DVT. If D-dimer is positive, then compression ultrasound will be done. If compression ultrasound is positive, then treat the patient as DVT. If compression ultrasound is negative after doing D-dimer positive, then probability low or moderate with negative D-dimer, then exclude the diagnosis. If compression ultrasound compression ultrasound negative with probability high or moderate with positive D-dimer, then repeat compression ultrasound in 7 days. If negative, then exclude. If positive, then treat. If pretest probability is moderate or high, then we'll do compression ultrasound directly. If compression ultrasound is positive, then treat the patient. If compression ultrasound is negative, after doing moderate or high, after moderate or high pretest probability with negative D-dimer, then with negative D-dimer with probability low or moderate, then exclude. With positive D-dimer with probability high or moderate and compression ultrasound is negative, then repeat compression ultrasound in 7 days. This table shows the predicting the pretest probability of deep vein thrombosis DVT using the Wells score. The clinical characteristics are: previous documented DVT score 1, active cancer, patient receiving treatment for cancer within previous 6 months or currently receiving palliative treatment, score 1. Patient is paresis or recent cluster immobilization of lower extremities, score 1. Recently bedridden for 3 days or more than 3 days, or major surgery within previous 4 weeks, that is score 1. Localized tenderness along distribution of deep venous system, score 1. Entire leg swelling, score 1. Cuff swelling at least 3 cm larger than that on the asymptomatic side, measured 10 cm below tibial tuberosity, then score 1. Pitting edema confined to symptomatic leg, score 1. Collateral superficial veins, non-varicose, score 1. Alternative diagnosis at least as likely as DBT minus 2. Now clinical probability. If DBT low probability indicate if score is less than 1. If score is 1 to 2 then DBT moderate probability. If score more than 2 DBT high probability. A dichotomous revised Wells score which classifies patients as unlikely or likely may also be used. Swollen legs in pregnancy. Benign swollen legs common in pregnancy. This is usually benign. DBT pregnancy is a significant risk factor, however. D-dimer should not be measured in pregnancy. It has not been validated in this group. Imaging should be arranged on the basis of clinical suspicion alone, and the threshold for undertaking a definite diagnostic test should be low. Thank you.